Parent versus friend. Where do you stand? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially as a father, because when I look back at how I raised my older kids, I was always a father first. I wasn't on some like, oh, let's sit down and talk it out all the time. I was younger and a little more hot-headed, and my mindset was like, I'm the dad and I know what's best. I already tried to, give my kids like that moral compass, teaching them right from wrong and trying to instill those same values that was passed down to me so I can give it to them. You know what I mean? I was preparing them for the real world. And I feel like sometimes this generation lacks that. Like somewhere along the line, people got soft with their kids, if I'm being honest. And not to like discredit anybody or, trying to come off like I'm being judgy. Everybody has their own parenting style, right? And to anybody that was born in the late 70s, like early 80s, or just the 80s in general, you have to realize we're like the last of the Mohicans. You know what I'm saying? Because we grew up in the 90s. And so our parents were more old school, especially if, you know, our family comes from a different country or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandmother is very Dominican. So growing up with her, I had to learn how to take out the trash, sweep and do dishes. And, early on as a kid, you're like, damn, do I really want to do chores? But not realizing that she was preparing me for the future. So I tried to do that with my kids, and I'm pretty sure they hated me because I would be on top of them, like, yo, did you do the dishes? Like, did you clean your room? Did you fix your bed? And it's those little things that at that moment, they probably looking at you like you some hating ass parent, but they're gonna appreciate it down the line. Like I talk to my daughter and she's like, I'm doing laundry or I'm cleaning my room. You know what I'm saying? And it's just those little things that, all right, I did something right. So younger me, while I was raising my kids, was a hothead. I lacked patience, and that's something that, thinking about it now, I really wish I did have the patience because, I was kind of more, I was, I want to say I was uptight with the kids, in a sense where, like, when it came to the structure and the discipline, I was hard on them. But you have to realize that as a parent, you don't want to see your kids fall down like the bad path, right? You want to keep them on a straight, narrow line. And I remember like getting those phone calls from school, like, "Sir, you have to come in. Your son got in trouble today, or whatever the case was." And I remember just going to the school, and I would just give my son this look, like, "Yo, wait till we get to the crib." But that's how it was when we was growing up. Like I remember when I would get in trouble in school, like my old girl, she would be like, "Wait till we get to the house." You know what I'm saying? So it was like a repeat offender thing, right? Like that's what we seen, so we were kind of like doing the same thing. With my grandmother, she was more understanding. Obviously, she had more experience in life. She raised 7 kids. She had grandkids. You know what I'm saying? So she understood me. She had the patience. She had been through things in life. So growing up with her, things was more on the chill side. And not that she wasn't stern with me, because let me tell you, That sweet old lady, when she would get firm, like I'll be like, oh, she not playing today. So I respected the hell out of my grandma. Like I ain't playing no games with her. And I probably mentioned this before. I've had conversation with my kids, and I've genuinely apologized to them, because that version of me that they had growing up is totally different from the version that I am now. And that was because I was dealing with a lot of hurt. I was dealing with a lot of trauma, and I didn't want to admit that I was dealing with things internally, and I would just compress it and whatnot. So, I've apologized to them, and they've told me like, Dad, you don't need to apologize because you did what you had to do as a father. And to be honest, like if you weren't that way with us, we probably, who knows where we'd be right now. Now, when I look at parenting today, I feel like perspective plays a huge role. I've seen a lot of parents today try to be more understanding, more open, and I get that. I really do. But I also think sometimes that line between being a parent and being a friend starts to get blurry. I've even heard people say things like, well, if they're going to do it anyway, I'd rather they do it with me. I understand the mindset behind that. But for me, that's where I start questioning if the role is shifting too much. Because I don't think it's about being strict just to be strict. It's about understanding when you're the parent first and when you're trying to be relatable second. I think the problem comes later when you try to set boundaries after that dynamic is already built. That's when you get pushback. Because now it's like, oh, you was cool with everything before. Now you switching up the rules. So I think it's all about timing and structure early on. Not just to be the cool parent the whole time, but also not being disconnected either. And that kind of ties into how I see it now with my own kids. Because now I'm in it in real time with Harlem. Right now, he's only 3 years old, but I'm already big on structure early on. If he makes a mess, I'll have him clean it up. Put things back where they belong. He naturally loves to help out, so we let him. Little things like, oh, can you get this for me? Or can you throw this away? And he'll gladly go and throw it in the trash. And, if he sees us doing chores, he wants to like feel included. So we let him, and I feel like that builds character early on. And as much as he can be a gremlin at home, I will say the kid is very polite. Please and thank you. When we leaving to go to school for morning drop off, and he sees the neighbor outside, he'll say buenos dias, good morning, like how you doing? Have a great day. Like it's funny just seeing him interacting with the neighbors. He's like an old soul. But just basic respect early on. For me, it's about building habits early. I feel like that's very important. So it's not something that later on I have to try to force it on him. And I think that ties back into the whole parent versus friend thing because I'm not trying to blur that line early. I want him to understand structure first, and everything else builds off of that. If you've been listening, you know we've been trying to get Harlem more comfortable sleeping in his room. My wife actually did his room recently, glow in the dark stars, planets, and all that. So now he's been wanting to sleep in there more on his own. And it's just those little things, building comfort, structure, independence early. And I think that's really where I'm at with it right now. It's not about trying to be perfect as a parent. I just think for me personally, I always lean father first because I feel like structure early on matters. And once that friend first dynamic is set too early, forget about it. It's going to be hard to reverse it later on. Parent versus friend, where do you stand?